And in this video, we're going to check out Android N and some of its major and minor new features. We're still in the beta process, so things will change before we see the final release later this year. Obviously, one of the changes here is a new default wallpaper, and that's what you get right here. And of course, you can see it on both a phone and a tablet, which we'll take a look at a bit later. Now, what has changed a lot is the drop-down notification shade. So you can see the notifications are edge to edge this time instead of floating. And you can see up top, we do have these quick setting toggles, which you can expand out further by swiping down again. You can also use a two-finger gesture to jump right to the full panel. Now, taking a look at these notifications before we take a look at our quick settings, you can see that they expand out to more features. So for example, within this Gmail app, we can actually respond to each email. So I can actually tap an arrow right next to the message and I can reply or delete the message. Now, if I want to collapse this, I can just tap the arrow again, but again, I can use that two-finger gesture to expand it out. Now, if you swipe to the left or right, you can get to your settings for the app here, which takes you to quick settings, which allows you to mute notifications or jump to more settings. You can also just tap and hold on the item to get to the same settings. We can also quickly reply to messages within the drop-down shade. So we can bring up a keyboard, type our message, send it off, and then dismiss the shade when we're done. This also works outside the notification panel, so when you get a pop-up, you can also reply directly. Also new is the ability to block certain numbers system-wide, so you can choose whether to block this number, and this will automatically delete any voicemails you receive from that caller. Now, checking out our new quick settings up top again, we have our first 5, and these can be arranged. So if you want to change the priority of this list, expand it out again to see all of your quick settings, and you can see they're now paginated, so you can swipe between the pages. Now, if we go to edit, we can see all the active toggles up top and the inactive toggles down here. So these are currently invisible when you bring up your shade. So if you want to add them, just drag and drop them. So for example, we can add data saver, cast screen. Actually, we can add all of them if we want. Night mode, and let's say that's good enough. Now I can rearrange the first 5 here, so if I want to add night mode to this list, I can go ahead and do so. So that now appears in the quick setting bar up top. But of course, if you start messing with this and you don't like it, you can go to settings and reset it back to default. Now with some of these, they're just quick toggles like the flashlight, but some features actually bring up a quick control panel. So if you enable do not disturb, you get to some of your settings. And the great thing here is you can modify your settings without leaving the drop-down shade. We also have a new battery status indicator, so you can see our timeline. You can click on battery saver mode or jump right to more settings, which will take you to the control panel. Now if you tap and hold on any one of these will take you directly to the settings panel. But again, for example, if you're within this full view of the drop down shade, you can tap on this to see your Wi-Fi settings. Interestingly, if you tap and hold on flashlight, it actually launches into the camera app. Now, one of the features that may not make it to the final release is night mode, which I enabled using the System UI Tuner, which you can enable by tapping and holding the gear icon in the upper corner here, so that turns it on. So night mode is a neat feature. This basically turns the display into this sort of orange-yellow color, which the idea here is to strip away the blue color that's disruptive to sleep patterns. So if you're looking at your device in the evening, the best thing to do is to change the display color to this yellow color, which prevents the disruption that the blue light causes. And of course, you can turn that on or off. Now, if you tap and hold on it, you get to more options. So you can click this on at certain times of day automatically, and you can also adjust the brightness. Data Saver is another new feature that allows us to restrict data usage over our cellular network. So if you have a data usage cap, this is where you can manage that. So we can tap and hold on this feature, which you can toggle on and off really quickly here. Now this will restrict certain apps from downloading big files over the cellular network, but you can whitelist certain apps. So for example, if you want Chrome to have full access to the cellular network for background downloads, you can do so. Obviously, that makes more sense for emails or that sort of thing, but again, that's highly customizable here. Speaking of settings, this has also been enhanced with some additional information. So if you go to the settings panel, you can see these recommended actions or warnings up top. So right now it's telling me that do not disturb is on right now. So if I want to turn this off, I can go ahead and turn it off right from settings. You can also see that each item now has some information under it. So for example, display tells me adaptive brightness is turned off. I have 54 apps installed that are pushing notifications. You can see my sound settings, apps that are installed, storage information, battery information, memory usage, users, and who is signed in, tap and pay. You can see Android Pay is the default, and more. Now, if you're within a settings panel, so for example, I'm under display, and if I want to jump back to the settings panel, usually I'd have to go back and then pick something else. But they save a step here by giving me this little list I can swipe in order to activate. So again, these are all my settings which I can quickly jump to. So if I want to jump to notifications, it takes me there. And now if I want to jump back to display, I can go ahead and select that. Now there is a new feature found under settings. If you go to display, you'll find display size. So this allows us to resize the content displayed on our device. So for example, if you want to resize everything for smaller text, for more dense information, you can do that. But if you want to really expand it out, you can do that as well. Another new feature under settings is emergency contact info. So if we go to users and we go to emergency information, this is where we can enter all of this in. So we can specify our name, blood type, allergies, medications, medical conditions, if you're an organ donor, and your emergency contacts. So this becomes useful on the lock screen. So if somebody finds your phone, of course they don't have the PIN or your fingerprint to unlock it, they can actually swipe and go to emergency info, tap again to access it, and all that information is readily available. One of the most talked about new features with Android N is split screen view, which you can activate from the recent apps viewer. So in order to activate it, you just drag and drop one of these apps, so you can see this white space appears toward the top. So if I drag the app to that white space, it expands out and now allows me to pick another app from the recent apps viewer. So for example, I can go ahead and open up YouTube in the same window. You can also activate split screen by tapping and holding the recent apps key, and then you can select one of your previously open apps. So there we go, we have two windows I can resize and interact with separately. In fact, I can go ahead and interact with both windows simultaneously. Now this also works in landscape view, and you can resize it like so, and everything scales appropriately. Now if you look at recent apps, you can see it's now in split screen mode. So if I go to the home screen, it actually tucks away one of the apps and I can go ahead and navigate around. You can see it also brings me to this landscape view of the home screen when I'm in this split screen mode. Now if I want to jump back to it, just tap that button and now I have to reselect the app on the right side, but the left side stays the same. This works the same in landscape or portrait orientation. So again, if I tap on that, this will allow me to select a different app down below. If I go to the home screen again, it tucks it away and I can regain access to it by tapping here. So it retains the split screen view without losing where you last left off. So again, I can jump right back to my app combo I had earlier, and then I can go ahead and continue doing what I was doing. Now if I want to change the app appears here again, I can go to split screen view and pick something else. But everything on the left side stays on the left side. Now if you're in landscape view, you just drag and drop it to the left hand side. Now in order to get back to one app, you just expand one app to the full screen and you can see split screen mode is now off. Now if you're within split screen mode, just tapping and holding on the split screen icon will actually maximize the top window to close the other window. So now you're in standard view. Now if you're currently in split screen mode and leave split screen mode to open up another app, this will actually open up that app in the second window here. The recent apps viewer does have a few other tricks worth mentioning. So if you double tap the recent apps viewer when you're on the home screen, it takes you to your last app. Now if you do this from within an app, this will jump back to the previous app you were looking at, and you can do this back and forth. And when you go to recent apps, you can see the app you're just looking at tucks in down below, and you can see the previous apps up top. See, the idea here is that when you go to recent apps, you don't really need to see the app you were just looking at front and center. It jumps to the apps behind it. Now in terms of the tablet experience, it's pretty much identical to the phone experience. Obviously it's formatted for the tablet, so we don't have edge-to-edge notification panels and that sort of thing, but you can see we have the same drop-down notification shade with our quick setting toggles. Of course, things are a little buggy here, but again, the notifications are expandable and we have the same actions here. We also have split screen view, which is especially nice to have on a tablet. So for example, again, I can open up the Photos app on either the left hand or right hand side in this landscape view, which is nice. Then I can go ahead and open up the Gmail app if I want. And again, I can resize it and things scale appropriately. But again, we can expand out to see the full screen app, tap and hold to activate split screen mode again, and the right side again is where you select the alternative app. And once again, you can interact with two apps side by side. This also works in portrait orientation just like the phone, and it operates the same here. So again, if you go to your recent apps viewer, you can expand out to a single app, tap and hold to activate the split screen view and select your preferred app here like Gmail. Now just like the phone, if you leave the split screen view, it tucks along the side here and you can jump back to it whenever you want. But if you want to open up a different app here, just go to the home screen, go to your app drawer, and let's say we want to open up Twitter. This will open up Twitter on the right side. Now a few things don't quite work right. So if we go to the settings panel, you can see it's the old-fashioned continuous list view instead of the tiled landscape view, which we saw with Marshmallow. So obviously they'll fix this before we see the final release. But you can see your suggestions up here indicating that I haven't set up a screen lock and I haven't changed the wallpaper. Right now it's the default wallpaper. So again, suggested actions, which you can hide if you want, or you can tap the icon up here to remove them. Alright guys, so that's going to do for me in this quick look at Android, and if there are major changes, I will update you with future videos, so stay tuned for that, and until then, see you again in the next video.